sort of how I got my start in animation, what school I went to, what was in my portfolio, just the whole process, just to give you an idea of what it's like. Of course, what I'm talking about is Canada, United States. It might be a little bit different here, but generally I find that wherever you are, the process to become an animator or get into the industry is pretty similar. Just give me a sec. So I knew I wanted to go into animation when I was really young. I think it was Pocahontas on TV, the Disney one, and Glenn Keane came out, and Glenn Keane was the kind of big shot animator at Disney for a while. He animated Pocahontas herself, he did Tarzan, he was the animator for Little Mermaid, and he came out on the production and talked about animation, and that was my first time that I saw, oh, this is an actual job that people can do. People grow up to draw cartoons, and I thought that was absolutely great. So from then on, I just decided I want to be an animator too. I want to be like Glenn Keane. My school did not have a good arts program. It was actually pretty bad, so I had to mostly be self-taught, which meant that I had to go to the library, go to art classes outside of schools, look up artists, and study on my own. So I really had no idea what to put in a portfolio to get into a good art school. I was lucky in that my parents signed me up for kind of a art class outside of school that was actually across the street from the art university that I wanted to go to. And they kind of helped me put together a portfolio for art school. And the big advice I have there is don't just put one type of artwork in. They want to see that you have a broad interest and a different skill set. So if you're good at painting, good, put your best paintings in, but also put a range of other art in, like sculpture, photography, studies, plein air studies, life studies, model drawing of nudes or almost nudes if you're underage. Definitely show that you are capable of doing more than one thing and that you are interested in a variety of things, because that's what an art school really wants, is to see that you're willing to grow. My high school art teacher, like I said, we had a very bad program, but she told me I would never go into art school, I would never become an animator, I just wasn't skilled enough. So sometimes the people who criticize you, they don't 100% know what they're talking about. So it's really about how hard you work and how much you believe in yourself. So when I went to art school, I really thought I would become a 2D character animator. But I discovered that I really enjoyed motion graphics, which is, if you watch the opening sequences of movies like Catch Me If You Can or a Strange Series of Events, it's there will be kind of an animation of text, of words before movies or on advertisements. That's also motion graphics. And I was good at that, and I really liked doing it. And I focused on that in animation school. I didn't really learn how to animate characters or do kind of what you see in Disney or even what we do on Pony. I didn't learn how to do that. I learned how to do a different kind of animation work. When I graduated, it was not a good year in Canada to get into the industry. A lot of people were being laid off, a lot of projects were closed, like Disney in Canada was closed. So there was no work. I was really lucky in a way because I got hired at my dream studio that did advertising and motion graphics. But the morning I was supposed to start, they called me and said, don't bother coming in. We don't have work for you anymore. So I was fired for my first job before I even started. It was so bad there. I thought, okay, I'm going to rethink my whole career. Like, there's no work. Why am I doing this? Maybe I should just do something else. So I applied to the University of British Columbia for a master's degree in library science. I was going to become a librarian. And I was accepted. Everything was going to go ahead. And I was still on the side posting my drawings online on DeviantArt at the time. I think some other places. I had my own website. I think I was posting on CG Hub, which doesn't exist anymore. But I was just posting my artwork for fun, because I liked getting comments and I liked interacting with the art community online. And someone saw it because I got a call from Disney before I was about to start working or going to school again, and the recruiter asked if I was interested in applying for a job as an illustrator with them. And I said, maybe, I don't know. And my friends and my family all convinced me, okay, maybe you have this glorious future as a librarian, but maybe you should try working for Disney for a little while. So I did the art test, I got in, I worked at Disney for 3 years doing research and development for games and doing character design and doing costume design. And definitely that was a lesson in studio politics, because we were a pretty young team of people, and in a young team of people there is a lot of ego and a lot of when sometimes when you work you become very close and the friendships kind of cause problems. So when you start working in the animation industry, you're going to learn that it's not just about being a good artist, it's also the ability to deal with other people, to be on a team and to solve conflicts without creating more conflicts. Definitely the ego, I see it everywhere I go. Thank you, young people come in with their artwork and assume that they are the best and that they deserve so much attention, and it doesn't always turn out very well for them. After Disney, I went to DHX Media to work on My Little Pony, season 3. I didn't know very much about My Little Pony before I started. I played with the toys when I was a kid, and I saw in a design blog online when they first redid My Little Pony, and they showed the difference between the earlier cartoons and the Lauren Faust designs, and I thought, oh, those are really great. So when I was offered to work on them, I thought, okay, I get to work on something really cute, really nice, but I didn't know it was popular at all. So I found out about bronies and everything a lot later. And at DHX Media, I was put into a character design role, which I did a little bit of in Disney. I was mostly kind of doing costume colors, illustration, concept art. This was my first time doing characters for an animation production. And the amount of time you have for something that is in production versus something that is pre-production, which is what I was doing at Disney, your schedule is completely different. When you're in pre-production, which means all the work that you do before a film or a game, you have to figure out all the way everything looks, how the characters look, how they're designed, how they move, what the world is like, all the writing, all the backstory. It's a lot of drawing and then having those drawings thrown away and then drawing something new and then it gets thrown away because you're slowly developing it. So that was a very good lesson in learning how to not be too attached to your artwork, because pre-production is very much like, yeah, it's nice, but what if we try this? And so you just have a ton of work that gets thrown away that will never see the light of day. But it makes you a better artist because you keep moving and developing, and you don't just settle on the first thing that you draw. When I moved to production is a completely different thing. You have to work to a very tight schedule. We have 1 week from when we get the script to when we have to hand in the designs. You have a very short amount of time to do revisions. The art director or the director will give you feedback within the week, and on top of the work you're already doing, you have to make those changes to the characters, to the backgrounds. So you need to learn when you are doing production in animation to work quickly, to work very, very well with your team. If you clash, then the work gets delayed. So whatever your art director wants, you do it. You don't sit there and think, yes, but what I did was better, so I'm going to still try and sneak what I want in there, because the art director will get it back to you and say, great, now you have to work overtime. Now you're working here till 9 instead of 5 because I wanted this and you still gave me what you gave me before. So you have to just sort of learn how to accept that you're working for a client, you're working on a deadline, you do what they want, and then you do what you want at home. For My Little Pony, I'm going to explain sort of all the different roles. First you have the producer, who makes sure everybody is hired, that everything is on schedule, and he oversees the whole production. So he's the most stressed, frustrated person in the studio. After that, you have to start the writing process. So usually the directors sit down with writers and they come up with short concepts for each episode. We like to focus on all the main characters in the season, so everybody gets their own little story. Everybody gets a story where they're together, and then there's usually like a big finale, a big conflict. And throughout the season, there is an arc of whatever the major lesson is for the season. Like I think season 5 was a kind of overarching about cutie marks. So all the stories kind of played into that. Season 6 is about, going to new places. So all the episodes kind of tie into that. But within those, all the episodes have focus on different characters or backstories. So once those little concepts, like maybe like a paragraph each, are agreed on, the writers go into teams and they come up with the scripts. And the scripts will go through several different versions. Sometimes they're not even finished by the time we start designing. Sometimes we design off of a draft, and then things get changed. A lot of the time when there's like a major new character, that character is named something completely different in the script because it's still a draft and things change. So while the writers are getting out their script and it's going through their polishes, they're like over here, and we start a little bit later in the design team. So in some shows like Adventure Time or Steven Universe, they don't design first, they go storyboard first. But at MLP, we design the characters and the backgrounds and the props and do the color art before we do storyboarding. So I'll explain it that way. On our design team, we have an art director who oversees the entire crew. The role of the art director shouldn't be, at least at DHX, to do everything themselves or to say, I want it this way, this way, this way. You have to draw it exactly this way. The role of the art director is to oversee the crew, to make sure that they're handing in their artwork on time, that it fits all within the world, that it's consistent. And to tweak things. When I was art director, most of the time I spent fixing colors, or just tweaking things for builds. It's not the most glamorous job, but it looks really good when it comes up on the screen. Art directed by. In the design team, we have a character designer, a prop designer, a background artist, a background color artist, and a couple of general artists. So the character designer is responsible for all the characters, obviously, and all the costume changes, usually. So if Rarity has a new dress, or Twilight has a hat, or Discord and his many costume changes, that's all done by the character designer. We work off of existing models, and we will create new designs as well. Also things like photos or posters, that's all done by the character designer. So if you see in season 6, the Trixie poster that she unfurled, it was like a little painting. That's something I got to do in my kind of spare time as a character artist. I got to paint Trixie in a more detailed style because I had the time. All the items that they carry or interact with is done by a prop artist. Sometimes the prop artist also does some of the special effects. So if they have like a magical object that emits light or lightning or whatever, all of that is handled by the prop artist. Background artist does all the new locations and redresses existing locations to have new elements. So when they went back to, oh wait, did they yet? No, I don't think so. That's a spoiler. So if we go back to an existing location that you've seen in previous season, and we add new items or fix things to make it look different, then that is always the location designer's job. We have a bunch of color artists. One of them colors the characters, which is Fernanda. She does all the character colors. That's her job all day long. She colors ponies. We have 2 background color artists, and their job is to take the backgrounds and color them. We also have a few cleanup artists, and their job is mainly just to trace the artwork, to prepare it, make it clean, because we submit rough sketches, or we don't always submit in Flash. So the cleanup artist has to clean everything up. And then the general artists do the rotations, they do extra prop designs, and they do board pulls, which I'll come back to later. So that's how it works, design. From design, it's handed off to builds and storyboards simultaneously. The storyboard artists are responsible for what you mostly see, all the acting, all the funny faces, all of that is storyboard artists. They take the script and they draw out like a comic book, and it's put to the voice recording, which happens while we're designing. I'm never involved really in the voice recording, but all the actors are always coming in to the studio to sit with the director and go over, and it's a long process. Sometimes a single scene will take 4 hours because they have to go in and shoot and reshoot and redo it. So so the storyboard artists go scene by scene, almost sometimes frame by frame if there are very specific actions. Like when Maud, I don't know if she's called Maud here, but if Maud is doing the ice skating in Manhattan and she does the twirl, every moment of that is kind of drawn ahead of time by the storyboard artist so that we could get the timing right and we could get the pacing with the voices and fit it all within the 22, 26 minutes of the episode. Once the storyboard artists are done, it gets passed back to design, because sometimes there are things that the storyboard artists will add in, little jokes, like those little background ponies sometimes that you see that are kind of pop culture references, like the Pulp Fiction reference in the pony point of view with Rarity in her boutique. Those were done by the storyboard artists. They kind of sneak stuff in, and sometimes we say, no, that's a little too obvious, we can't have that, and sometimes we'll think it's really funny, and as a designers, we'll take it and we'll design it so that the animators will have that design and we'll be able to put it in. The build team, while the storyboarders are doing their thing, they're responsible for taking our designs, which are flat, they're not puppets yet, and breaking it down. So they, it's like if you can imagine a puppet with all the joints. They will put all those little joints on layers. They will go and create all the blinks, all the mouth movements, everything, and make sure that once the animators get it, that the puppet is fully built. They don't really have to build any new blink cycles or anything. It's a pretty laborious job, to be honest, but if you're very technically minded, if you enjoy solving puzzles or problem solving, then building animation puppets would probably be a fun thing to do. The layout team is responsible for creating different views of the backgrounds. Usually we submit just a few views because we only have one artist and we only have 1 week. And then there's a whole team of people. If there's an up shot or a down shot, they will recreate that based on the storyboard and based on the design submitted backgrounds. So a layout position would be really, really good if you are a technically minded person as well, not just builds. If you enjoy working with perspectives or referencing other artworks, you're not really strong in design, but you're good in art, then that's a really good place to be. They also pose out some of the characters, and then that's sent off to our animation team, who will do all the key poses. So all the major actions will be posed out by our posing team using the puppets that the builds team has built. Once they're done that and the directors all have approved it, it goes to Korea to be animated by Top Draw, which is our animation team in Korea. And they send all those in-betweens, like, when you have the major poses, they do everything that's in between so that it flows smoothly. If you notice other Flash cartoons earlier, they're not as smooth. They look puppety. They don't look like they're hand-drawn animation, whereas with My Little Pony, it's a little closer to hand-drawn animation than rickety, Flash animation traditionally has been. And that's mostly Top Draw because they're very good at filling in those in-betweens and making it very smooth. Once it gets back to the directors and they sign off and there are no more revisions or no more animation edits to be done, it gets sent off to the motion graphics and the special effects team. They tweak the colors, they add lighting or all those little sparkles or whatever. That's all done with our post-production team. And then the mysterious process of putting it all together with sound and editing it and sending it off to Hasbro for them to approve. So that is how it works. That is the world of animation. I guess I could talk a little bit about portfolios, what to put in your portfolio to get into the industry if you're interested. I do a lot of portfolio reviews when I was art director, which meant that once or twice a week, I would have to sit down and look at the portfolios of people applying for work. And I have to be brutally honest. It's not like we sit and gently go through everything you've drawn and really take a lot of time because we have a limited amount of time and we get so many portfolios. So my strongest most important advice to you is to include at the very beginning your best pieces, the stuff that really shows what you're about. Don't assume that somebody is going to sit and look through 400 images or 50 images or even 10 images. Start with your best 3 in case they don't want to look for anything else. A lot of the times their portfolios would come up on a screen in front of me and I'd go click, 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 no, click, 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 yes, click, 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 no, right? It's not a very thoughtful, loving process, to be honest with you. And then sometimes we would come up with somebody who's really, really good, and we would go through their entire portfolio and just be like, wow, that's really good. Oh my God, look what he can do, and he can do that. And maybe we could use him for this or use him for that. If you are looking to be a background artist and that's all you're interested in, that's fine. And all you want to do is do backgrounds or just do characters. You can just have a character-focused portfolio or a background-focused portfolio, but you have to be really, really good. Like really, really good. Because chances are, if you're just starting out in the industry, you're not going to be hired right away to be a character designer. And you're not going to be hired right away to be an animator or a storyboard artist. You have to start at the bottom and work your way up. So usually we want to see what your skill set is. How do you draw characters? How do you do backgrounds? Where can we use you? What potential do you have in our studio? Also, you think about the fact that a lot of animation studios work on contract. You don't have a full-time position where it's like, yes, you'll be guaranteed a job 1 year from now, 2 years from now. You maybe work a 6-month contract, 8-month contract, and then maybe you'll get hired back for a different project, but maybe you won't. And a studio wants to invest in somebody they can reuse for different projects. And so sometimes I'm not always going to be able to do character design because they might have somebody else in mind for character design. But if I include backgrounds or animation or something else in my portfolio, then they could use me for something else. Like maybe I'll do colors, or maybe I'll do backgrounds or layout or cleanup, you know. I have to show a little bit of all of those skills for me to be a well-rounded and useful employee for a studio. And of course, sometimes you have rock stars who are just so good at characters that all they do is hand in a character portfolio. And you're like, yeah, we'll just hire them as character artists. It's great. But usually you start off doing general art or general design, or you start off as a storyboard revisionist where you don't even get to draw the storyboards. You just get to fix them a little bit based on, like, you know, the real storyboard artists or the senior storyboard artists do the work, and then a revisionist comes in and tweaks things and fixes it, so they learn the process. So very rarely do you just become an art director or become a character designer. Usually you work your way up. When you're submitting a portfolio for character design, my advice is to show characters with a lot of personality. Don't just have a whole bunch of characters like this. Whether it's 3D or 2D, you want to avoid kind of a dead pose. It's good to have a 3/4 pose, maybe neutral, but then make sure you have a lot of poses that show their personality, or a lot of studies of how their faces move, the expressions that they make. That is the most valuable thing for a character designer, to show that you can do more than one pose and you can understand the way that a character moves and that it actually can move. Because a lot of the time some people submit a character design portfolio where they have a really cool drawing, but it won't work for animation because it doesn't turn around well, or the anatomy doesn't really function if you try to make it move. So we really look for the ability to make your characters move and work in a real situation, in a real animated film or TV show. For background art, we want to see a lot of stylized work, but we also want to see a lot of work that is studied from real life to see how you interpret the world around you and how you can kind of create your own worlds. A lot of color studies, lighting studies are very important to understand the value of light as it hits objects or as it affects the way that the perspective works. All of you look so tired. Were you up till like 6 a.m. this morning? Oh my gosh.
Around 7, I think.
Oh my God, all of you are just, so definitely a lot of color, a lot of lighting. If you're just working in grayscale for your backgrounds, that's fine too. But show us the value and the volume of things using your grayscale. You know, you want to make it feel like you could see the real volume of things. There's a lot of great tutorials online for doing that. For animation, if you're submitting a portfolio, you don't want to submit like an hour-long reel, and you don't want to submit something that doesn't immediately capture the person who's looking at it, their attention. Animation, the best things to show is studies of how characters move in certain situations. If you think of the Studio Ghibli test for an animator, it sounds simple, but it's actually very, very difficult, and it's a great type of thing to have in your animation portfolio. Their test is to have a little kid, pick up something heavy and throw it. And you think, well, okay, but I can do this like intense scene where they're fighting and then the wings and but something simple like a character, how they interact with an object and pick it up and throw it, depending on what the object is, depending on how strong the character is. It can show a lot of personality, and it can show how you can create character and like a thing you can almost empathize with using a few frames, using a very simple setting, and using a very simple action. So if you do something simple but beautifully done, it's more impressive than something really elaborate but kind of shitty. So my advice is to have a very short reel and have stuff that's really looks like you put a lot of effort and a lot of thought into it, and that the person can watch for 3 seconds and say, okay, I'll watch for a little bit more. Because we don't give a lot of time to sit down and watch like 25-minute, 10-minute reels. We'll maybe give you 2 minutes at most. So if you don't catch us within the first 30 seconds to 1 minute, you're probably gonna just be rejected. It's a very competitive industry. There are a lot of people going to schools to learn 3D animation, 2D animation, game design, game development, and not all of them are great, but sometimes the people who are great slip through the cracks because we don't have a lot of time to look at their portfolios. So very few pieces, very good pieces, and very thoughtful pieces. Those are things that you put in your portfolio. Is there anything else I should cover, or do you guys want to give me questions?
Raz. Whoa. Nope. You won't? I know you won't.
You mentioned something about the storyboard artists sneaking in stuff during the show. Since you mentioned there are also some relations between different artists out there, my question would be, was there perhaps any instance that you remember about others consulting the storyboard artists to sneak stuff of their own into it?
It happens quite a bit. Sometimes the storyboard artist will just draw like a little joke in the background and think that maybe nobody will notice. And of course, as the design team, we have to go very carefully through each frame, so we always notice. And sometimes we think it's really funny, and we put it in. But unless the design team agrees to put the little thing that they snuck in into the show, it won't get in, because it's not like the storyboard artists have control over the design or the animation. It's just those black and white drawings. So they've never snuck something in that we've been like, where did that come from? Because we have to, as designers, go through and make sure that those designs are okay and they all get approved. But I mean, some things got in that we didn't expect Hasbro to approve of. In the episode where Rarity opens her Canterlot boutique, and she has that assistant, and she kind of learns that mass production isn't the right thing for her. There is a pony that comes in the end, this big green pony. That was something that design actually snuck in. It was the prop artist. She draws these stupid looking ponies to relax during her breaks, and we love them so much. And then she just kept drawing this one stupid fat pony, and we were like, do you think we could get it into the show? And we were like, okay, you know what, we'll just submit it, and Hasbro will say no, but at least we tried. And then Hasbro said yes, and we were like, really? It's so stupid. And then the storyboard artists, they started sneaking her into a lot of episodes. She appears in the Rara, the Countess episode. She's just in there in the crowd in in her Rara cosplay. And somehow Hasbro just was like, yeah, okay, that's fine. And we were just like, really? Oh my God. As a side note, if you notice, her cutie mark is like this really dumb looking version of herself. That's the original art that the Charmaine did. And we call her the Love Yourself pony, because her cutie mark is her own face. So that's a side note.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Ktoś ma jakieś pytanko? Ktokolwiek? No ludzie. Obudzić się! Okay, so I have a question. You told us that sometimes in the background we can see some special ponies, for example, like from for example, Pulp Fiction. There was an episode like, I don't remember, in this season, where there was a Master Chief.
Oh, Gordon Ramsay.
Yes,
yeah.
Gordon Ramsay. I was like, why?
Because they let us.
They let us.
Yeah. So I remember seeing there's like a debate online of who all the chefs are. You have Gordon Ramsay, Julia Childs. You have, what's that pretty one's name? Nigella Lawson, I think. You have Kat Kora from Iron Chef. And then there is a chef that the character artist used to watch on TV in the 80s in Canada. He's just Asian-style cooking chef. And a lot of people think he's Jamie Oliver, but it's not. It's a Canadian chef, so there you go.
Ktoś chce o coś zapytać? Okej, ktoś chce o coś zapytać.
In the episode when there was Starlight Glimmer as Snowfall Frost, she has a teacher, and in my opinion, her teacher looks very similar to Severus Snape from Harry Potter. Is that true?
Yeah, I designed that one, and I referenced Severus Snape because I think it was around the time that Alan Rickman died. I was sad, so I wanted to make a Snape pony.
Good morning. I've got a question. I would like to ask you about the process of employment. Who is employed? If there is a new project, is the person who employs willing to employ I don't know, Polish people, or is, for example, English as a second language a barrier? You have been talking about some conflicts in the team, so maybe speaking English as a second language may be a barrier to good communication within the people, within the group, and then cause problems. So is there a possibility that non-English speaking people as the first language are not so welcome in the team?
Definitely, if you're working in a Canadian or American production, some English is very good. We have a lot of people from different countries. We have a lot of people who speak English as a second language, and it's not always the best English, but they're very they're very talented. So one, we want to work with them, and two, we find ways to communicate. But basic English is always helpful, so that there's not a lot lost in translation. But we have people from China, we have people from Japan. There's a girl who's always speaking on the phone in really loud Polish, and I always have to go, chill. But we have people from all around, and to varying degrees of English proficiency. But as long as just the basic skills are there, then it shouldn't be a problem. And we do bring in people on work visas as well, if we really think that they will provide a skill that we can't find within Canada, or just that we really like their work, then we will arrange for a work visa for them to come and live in Canada and work on the project.
Okay, so I think how animation errors happens, but I see a few from MLP, but most more in the reboot of the Powerpuff Girls. So how it happens?
Okay. So I don't work in the department, but I do know how those errors sometimes happen. Because we have the animators in Vancouver and we also have the animators in Korea, sometimes we'll make last-minute changes. So we'll decide, okay, we're gonna zoom in like this close on something. So we only really have to animate what's in here. So sometimes a character whose face is kind of within the frame here, we won't put the legs in or whatever, because it's not necessary, it's just wasting time. And then last minute there'll be a change, like actually we kind of want to bring it out this way, right? But by then it's already in Korea, and they don't know that, okay, maybe all ponies should have all four legs. And it just gets lost, and we don't realize it in time because we have such a short amount of time to get stuff out there. So our directors are usually pretty tired by the time the final episodes roll out, so they might miss that this character has no legs, or that one eye is up and one eye is this way.
Therapy.
But from those little animation errors, we sometimes get new characters or fun things. So they're called happy accidents, but sometimes they're just accidents.
Because there was a tumble about this. Yes, tumble way about this.
It happens. We had a very complicated season. A lot of designs. In the season finale, all those warrior characters with all their little bits and pieces, and all the different characters that we had to come up with all sorts of different, elements on them, that sometimes it just people get overwhelmed and they make mistakes, and everybody's really tired, and we try really hard to put out a product that's perfect, but we are not perfect human beings, and sometimes we make mistakes. But we really enjoy afterwards going on, Tumblr and Twitter and seeing all of those little stupid mistakes. We think it's pretty funny because we try not to take it too seriously, because otherwise we'd be always crying in a corner of how we ruined everything. But it happens.
Yeah, mistakes happen.
Mm-hmm.
So you told us about animation, but what do you think about people like Gen Animations, or for example, other animators that are not working for Hasbro but doing the same good work as you are?
We love it. We love it when there's talent and there's interest in what we do, because the more people who do their own thing and do little animations on the side and then team up with other people to do bigger animations and then bigger, well, that's where the studio comes from. And so we look at that and we think, oh, they're really good and they're doing some interesting things and they're getting bigger. I wonder if I can work there, So
They're going to steal our job.
We look at it more like they're creating more jobs, right? Because every animator has their own story or their own idea, and one day they might be able to go and work to make that idea, and then they're going to need more people. So it's not really as competitive. We're not like, oh God, there's so many good people. We really look at it as an opportunity that people love animation and there's going to be more work for us, and B, that, potential new friends, awesome.
Always something, huh? Okay.
I would love to know what was the weirdest, the most crazy thing that Hasbro refused to put in the show.
Oh.
That's crazy stuff,
Hasbro's been pretty good. They usually, if we decide that we want something, they usually kind of let us go ahead with it. I can't think of any examples from past seasons. There is something coming up in season 6 that they really didn't let us do, but I can't tell you what that is.
Oh.
But yeah.
But maybe maybe you can sneak up a little bit of that.
I can't, but next year. I'll tell you next year.
Okay.
Okay?
That's a promise.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
How long it took to make a full episode?
I would say, let's see, when would we start? Okay, so an episode that I started in April in design, which just aired recently, it took about 4 months from beginning to finish, but we don't just work on it in a streamlined process. First design has to happen, then storyboard, so it kind of goes in chunks like that instead of like that. If we were just to start, just do one episode per season, it'd probably take like a month to do.
Okay. Yes.
I've got a question about special events in the My Little Pony, like for example, Heartwarming Eve or Nightmare Night. And I always wondered why they are not at the same time as our Nightmare Night at Halloween and Heartwarming Eve as Christmas, and those episodes are being played in TV just randomly.
Well, we do those episodes. We like to have maybe one per season, but we can't really decide when they're going to air, especially if the season starts in April and it's like an episode that's halfway. Usually it doesn't run April to December. We can't really schedule it that way. But if you want the pony answer, it's just because they're at a different time than we are. Their holidays occur differently because they're aligned with the stars differently than we are, so the seasons are different.
One more question. I wanted to ask you, once the episode is finished, do you watch it together with some other designers, and do you comment, do you discuss it, do you have a regular meeting, post-production meeting, let's say?
We'll sometimes, usually for the season premiere and the season finale, the whole studio will get together and watch it if we can. It's become a very big studio, but in like groups, we'll do a screening of the season premiere and finale of most of our shows, not just Pony. Otherwise, every Saturday, our director Jim does a live tweet of the episodes. So he talks about his opinions and he watches it with the fans and tweets back and forth. So you can, if you want to watch and talk to our director, he does that on Twitter. And usually the designers join in. So we actually tend to watch it with fans more than we watch it with each other in a way. So.
Okay.
Back to the question about how long does it take to make an episode. What about the movie? How long does it take to make an Equestria Girls movie?
A movie can take anywhere between 2 to 4 years to make a movie, because it's a bigger production. A lot of the time it's not done in Flash. Flash is a format mostly for TV. So when you're moving into a feature film, it's either going to be 3D or it's going to be hand-drawn animation, or it's going to be a little bit of both, which means that all those environments, all those characters, they have to be built, the story has to be made, the storyboard, and it goes through a ton of revisions. And instead of doing 22 minutes of content, you're working on 2 hours of content. So it becomes a really big process.
My second question would be somewhat unrelated to the show, as it's about a brand which is quite similar to MLP. Are you perhaps acquainted with something that's been developing for a few years so far and seems to be more this recognized in Europe than in the other parts of the world? Have you perhaps heard of Fantasia, a 3D pony project?
Yes, we watched a YouTube video of that at work. It's magical. It's magical.
Okay, thank you. That's telling me much. Thank you.
Okay.
Have ever happened that the entire team, after releasing an episode, had 5 different versions of an episode, and every version was as awesome as the original one?
Oh, sorry, I don't understand the question.
After releasing an episode, entire team had ideas of making the same episode in another versions of it, and every version was as awesome as the original.
There are definitely times where we watch an episode and think, oh, we could have done that better, or we could have done something else, because you have such a limited time when you're in production, like 1 week to design characters, 1 week to do this, that, right? That sometimes you don't have the time, like in a pre-production setting, to really thoughtfully go through and think of the very best, coolest thing. Spend a month on a design instead of a day. So sometimes, yeah, we look back on episodes and think, oh, we could have done that so much better. What if we had done that instead? But then we tend to keep those ideas for the next season and try to implement them on a different episode if we can. But I think it's pretty normal for the tight deadlines that we have, that we're like, oh, we wish we could have done it this way.
What about songs? Have people been wondering Have people been wondering about songs, like something song was already released for episode, and people were like, I can sing it better," or something like, let's make another version.
Daniel Ingram does the songs in Vancouver, and they're always so good. They're always like perfect. Whenever we hear them, we're like, "Oh, this is so good." I don't think we've ever thought, "No, this needs to be changed." I mean, he does really, really good work. Every time we hear the songs, we're just excited to work with them.
Were there too many good songs for episodes, so episode ended with no song at all?
Some songs have been cut out for time, especially for Equestria girls. Some of the songs don't make it, and they're all really good, but you have such a limited amount of time in an episode. For very song-heavy episodes like the Snowfall Frost episode, I think one song got cut, and even still, that was the nightmare episode to work on. It was so much work. So I can't even imagine how much work it would have been if we had included extra songs.
Okay, thank you.
I want to ask you about episode number 100 and about all that things which came from the fandom, from us to you, to constructors of this show. And could you tell us something about this episode?
I remember when we got the episode, I personally was worried that it was like a jump the shark episode, that like it wouldn't go over well. I was like, oh, maybe the fans will think this is too, like we're pandering too much to them, if you understand, like maybe we shouldn't do this. But you know, that was the first time I was actually allowed to Google and look into the fandom, because generally we don't look at your fan art, we don't read your stories, we stay away. Legally, we're not allowed to look at your stuff. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that happens in the fandom that I don't even know about. All these names, all these character backstories for background ponies. I had no idea. And I got to finally have permission to go and look at all this stuff. So I was looking at pony names and backgrounds and all these stories and all this fan art, and I was like, So I'm glad that the episode turned out the way it did. It's largely because of the storyboard artists. They really put in a lot of those jokes and a lot of the really funny moments, like the music battle, everything. The storyboard artists, that was their episode. Design, we were just too busy looking at your fan art to really contribute, so yeah.
There was Doctor Who in this episode. Did BBC had any issues with you about this?
No, it was cleared by legal because he doesn't really look like Doctor Who, and he doesn't really...
He does.
Well, he's like a caricature, right? So not really. We don't name him Doctor Who. It has nothing to do. He doesn't have a TARDIS or anything. We just put a scarf on a pony. That's all we did. So...
True.
Oh, yeah.
In the same episode, we had main six fighting monster in background, and anybody didn't care about it. It is really possible that they've been fighting monsters and everything that many times that everybody is like, well, whatever, yet another day.
I think that's the fun part of the episode, is that life goes on for the other ponies in the world while these six are busy being heroes. And I think it happens on such a consistent basis that now they're just like, they'll take care of it. That's their hobby, whatever. I think I'd love like a side series of like all the stuff that happens while they're having all their battles, all the ponies just living their regular lives while they battle that would be a great series.
And I have a question about Lyra and Bonbon.
Okay.
How good friends are they? Because watching the episode, I had a really strange feeling, like people been reading the things that fans came up with some ideas were good, some ideas were really crappy, and we like, let's put it in the episode, but not entirely. Let's give people something to think about, but you know.
Well, they're definitely very good friends. I mean, we don't know what their relationship is. It's never been written out for us, so we don't know. My personal opinion, I don't represent Hasbro or DHX when I say this, my personal opinion is that they're very good friends. Very good.
And another question about episode 100, about Gami, because Gami always was very stupid crocodile which wasn't able to do anything by himself, and in episode 100 he was shown at a completely different side. He was shown as a philosopher. And can you tell us more about this idea, who thought about this, and
I think the director had a big role in deciding that about Gummy, but I think we always joke that Gummy is incompetent, can't do anything just because he doesn't want to. Because if you think about all the stuff he's failed at doing, it's mostly Pinkie Pie being like, bake this cake, and then he doesn't because he's, Gummy. But we always joke like, oh, he's too busy reading Proust to bake a cake. And then that just kind of made it into the show that he's this like brilliant intellectual, and they just keep trying to make him do stupid things, and he won't because he's not a stupid guy. So.
Okay, thank you.
I have another question about episode 100. There is a scene where Lyra says to Bon Bon that she cooked them up and ate them. And I was wondering if you know, because there was a lot of arguing on the internet about this, if this is an actual reference to an animation Ponies in Hats, where Lyra cuts off human hands and cooks them up and eats them.
No, I don't
because
know.
it was really like the same line, and it was like many people thought that this is an actual reference to this animation.
I mean, I don't know the reference you're talking about, so I'm not sure. No,
but this is
I don't think I want to know the reference you're talking about.
No, it wasn't.
You don't want to know.
But I wouldn't be able to answer that. The writers and the storyboard artist would probably know better.
No. Ktoś jeszcze chce? Ty nie? Ty dostajesz.
Once again, it's a question about episode number 100. In 1 second, is there an image about people with horse masks? Can you explain that?
Oh, that's like okay, so one of the girls in the horse mask is like my favorite person. She's my really close friend. She's a director for Equestria Girls. She still has that horse mask in her office. They just wanted to do something really weird, so those are people at our studio who have worked on MLP or still do work on MLP, and they're just hanging out with horse masks because that's what we do.
I love it. We all do. Okay? Znowu? Okay.
And how Hasbro reacted to this frame with horse mask?
Well, they let us do it, so they probably thought it was funny.
Seriously? They haven't any...
Okay, so I on a side note, like I work for Hasbro doing toy design in my spare time. And I know the head of the My Little Pony development, his name is Kevin. He's the funniest, nicest guy. I mean, he finds the same things that we find funny, he finds them funny. So if he likes them, they go through. I mean, he's got the same sense of humor that we do. They're not just like weird guys in suits who don't laugh. They've got a good sense of humor.
So they were aware. They have awareness about this frame, and they allow you to do that.
Yeah, they thought it was funny, so they let us do it.
Okay.
Do you have any idea why Applejack keep pigs at her farm? Because it's pretty dumb, because ponies don't eat meat, I think.
Sorry, what she does? What at her farm? Oh, she keeps pigs.
Pigs at her farm.
They're just pets, you know. They're great. Pigs are smart. They're friendly. You know, why not? They're better than dogs.
They found mushrooms at the forest.
Yeah, you can have truffles every day with a pig. Why wouldn't you have a pig? That's my question. Why wouldn't you have a pig? What's wrong with you if you don't have a pig?
I'm sorry. Oh my God. My life has sense from now. Thanks you.
Okay, Applejack again. Why does she build barn each season? Raise this barn all the time.
She has a problem.
Yeah.
That's her hobby, I guess. I guess it's how she releases stress.
Okay. Chcesz coś zapytać?
I want to ask, Applejack's parents are dead?
Yes.
Well, we were never sure about this, really. How about Scootaloo?
Oh, I actually don't know about Scootaloo yet. Maybe soon. Maybe soon.
Okay.
Okay. No, nothing about hands. What is your opinion about Hasbro copyright claiming the fan animations on the internet? Like Jan Animations had a lot of like animations about button mash, and the Hasbro put them down, and then there was like a 1.5 year. Then Jan was fighting for his animation to come back, and he was like talking to some guys from Hasbro for like 2 years. And what is your opinion on that?
I mean, I can't really comment to why Hasbro does what they do in terms of legal. 'Cause I'm not a lawyer, I don't know. But if they felt that it had to be done, then I don't know. I'm not their legal team. I don't really have an opinion.
There's a legal part and graphic, so there's a line between them. Shkerat. Okay.
Returning to Applejack parents, I wanted to ask, are we allowed to know how they died?
I'm sure one day you'll find out what of the story of Applejack's parents.
Thank you.
But it's a spoiler, so.
Okay.
Okay, so we said a lot about colorful chairs called ponies, but how about places? How about Cloudsdale and Ponyville and stuff?
What about the other places?
Who odpowiada? Deserve? Odpowiada. Yeah, for creating this stuff.
Oh, okay. So when we create the new places, a little bit is the director obviously comes up with the premise of where we want to go. The writers will come up with a name, and then the background artist will design it. So when I was art directing, it would be me sitting down with our background artist, Laura, and deciding like, okay, so this is the location we want to reference this, like, or I have an idea of a place that I saw in Europe that we could reference for this. So we'll just put together this huge list of things, and the background artist and the art director decide how it looks. But it's kind of group effort, because the director comes up with the premise, the writers come up with the name, and then the designers come up with the way it looks.
I'm not sure if somebody already asked you this on our convention, but what do you think about us? We are just, well, mostly grown men, but you know, you start your work with Hasbro, you make colorful ponies and everything, and then one day, when you open your DeviantArt or Twitter, there are bronies everywhere.
So when I started, I think I mentioned yesterday at the other panel, when I started working on MLP, I didn't know about bronies. That wasn't, I thought it was still, you know, a show that was largely watched by little girls and little boys. And then I was in a room working with the director at the time for season 3, Rid, and the background artist, Phil, and Ted, the prop artist, Justine, the color artist. And they were all just like, it was a silent day. And then just one of them, I think it was Phil or Rid, just was like, hey, Kora, have you heard of bronies? And I was like, no, a what? What is that? And they were like, Google it. I was like, oh. And I, to be honest, it was overwhelmingly at first pretty negative. You know, so weird. Adults watch cartoons and like draw cute things. So weird, right? And I was like, yeah, it's really weird. That's what I do, though. I watch cartoons and I draw cute things. Am I weird? Am I weird? And so I kind of like started reading a bit more, and it was never very positive. And then I went to my first con in Vancouver in BronyCon to talk about character design. And that was my first time actually meeting any fans. And they were all just so nice and so excited about the show and creating all this awesome artwork and all this merchandise. And they sat down every week to watch the stuff that we put out and to talk about it in depth. And why wouldn't we like that? We love it. We think it's great. And on a side note, there's something really nice about the brony community that you don't find in a lot of other communities. It's very friendly, it's very open and welcoming. And when I went to BabsCon, which is the con in San Francisco, there was just a open forum discussion about how watching the show we make has changed people's lives and helped them make friends or help them accept things about themselves. And it's so positive that I don't have anything negative to say about the community, and I think it's great.
Thank you.
Czy Rainbow Dash ma rodzeństwo?
Does Rainbow Dash has siblings? No idea.
I have a question, but first I need to be sure one thing. Have you worked on Equestria?
Yes, I designed the character, or the main six, like the early version of the main six for the first episode, or first movie. They got taken over by Rebecca after a while, but I did the early concepts, and I also did the concepts for the villains in the second and third movie, and designed most of the characters in the third movie, actually. Yeah.
I have a question. What was the react of other artists when they heard that they need to create a spin-off?
I was the first designer approached about it, actually. I was called in to talk to the producer at the time, Sarah Wall, and Jason Thiessen, the director. And we heard that there was kind of an interest on Hasbro's end to do like an alternate reality thing. And of course, there's a little tie-in to merchandise, so we knew that there would be a lot of back and forth. But we really wanted to get a jump on it early to give our version of what we thought would look good. So I spent a lot of time doing all these different versions. Like, the earlier versions were kind of smaller and cuter. They weren't as tall and thin. They were really closer to the pony proportions. We also had to play around with the idea of skin tones. Like, what do we want them to look very human, or do we want them to be still more kind of otherworldly, magical creatures? So we looked at it kind of as an opportunity to do something new and interesting and hopefully good, instead of making something that people would just be like, oh, I don't like this, it doesn't look good. So we put a lot of effort into trying to make it work for a show and a toy. And then as the movies go on, I think that they're getting better and better. I'm really liking them. I didn't watch the third one when it came out. I didn't bother, but then I was sick one day and I watched it on Netflix. And I was like, I'm just gonna watch a little bit, whatever. And then I watched the whole thing and I was like, oh, this is really good. Oh yeah, I remember drawing that, but wow, the music is so good. So they're really good, I think.
We had another question, and the question is, will Shirley come back? Because we didn't saw her a lot in last episode. Shirley.
Oh, Charlie? I think so. Yeah, I think I've seen her, but I can't say for sure.
Okay.
What was your favorite, I could say, Easter eggs in cereal? What you put?
Oh,
for example, mine is when Twilight says winter is coming.
When Twilight does what?
When Twilight says winter is coming.
Oh, that's good. Wow, my favorite moment in the seasons. Did that episode air already? Yeah, season 5 already happened. You know, when it's the McColts and the two families that are fighting, and there's like the old woman who's in charge of one and the old man who's in charge of one. There's this moment where they're in the camp that's run by the older dude, and he's complaining about pumpkins, and he goes, pumpkin for tatas, and he does this little neck move. I just died laughing. It was so funny to me. So for like a few weeks, we'd be sitting in the studio drawing quietly. Everybody's kind of listening to their own music. Then suddenly someone would go, pumpkin for tatas, and we'd all start laughing. So yeah, I like that moment.
Okay. She was first. 1 second.
My last question is, in general, do designers work from home or from the office? When they've got a project, probably they need to meet, but do they work via Skype or?
So when I was character designing, I would work largely from home. I would come into the studio once or twice a week so that I could get the health insurance. You have to get insurance or to have a visa, you have to work in studio. Since I am a resident, I could work from home. When I was art directing, I had to be in the studio every single day. Sometimes an art director can work remotely, but for the show, they really like to have people in-house. Right now, I am freelancing for the studio, and I'm working from Australia for Canada. So I work not only from home, but I work at a completely different time than they do. When I wake up is when they're already leaving work. So it can work, but it can also be a little bit difficult for communication. So generally, they like people in-house, but if they think that you're worth keeping around, they let you work from home if you want. So, yeah.
In which season now you're working on?
I can't say.
So, if not siblings, we will see Rainbow Dash parents, or have you already appeared in some episode?
I don't think any character that could be described as Rainbow Dash's parents have appeared yet. I can't comment to whether they will appear in the future. I hope so. I hope so.
How about her dad? There was an episode with the Olympics, and she was like on top of some pony head.
No, that wasn't the dad.
Okay, good to know.
I want to ask first I want to ask if you were working at season 4.
I did a little bit of work on season 4, but that was largely Rebecca Dart as the character designer and Rid as the art director. I was working on Littlest Pet Shop at the time, which is another Hasbro project.
Okay, and I wanted to ask about the final of season 4. The end of the last episode was pretty strange to me, because the episode was very interesting because Twilight had to choose between her magic and her friends, and that was quite dramatic. But then at the end, there was rainbow and every problem just disappeared, and that was, and in my opinion that was strange. And why those things happens in the show?
I can't comment to it because that's a decision that was made by the director and the writers. So clearly they thought that that would be something to move the story on further and to develop the characters. But I mean, I can't argue with it because from that we've got season 5, which I thought was a pretty great season. So,
is there any scene in all seasons that took you the longest time to create? For example, I don't know, maybe a fight with T-Rex. It was probably very complicated for you to create.
Yeah, that was actually very complicated for the animators and the design artists. But for me personally, the worst, longest, most horrible experience was designing the bugbear that they fight. Somebody asked if there's anytime we look at an episode and think, I could have done that better. I look at that bugbear and I go, oh, I hate you. I could have done you so much better. I don't know if for some reason I couldn't design it in a way that I thought looked good, and then it just aired and I'm like, oh no. But I know that the whole team worked really hard on the season finale for season 5, where it's Rainbow Dash with the metal wing and the soldiers. That took a lot of time to do, that whole episode.
Are there any more zebras in Equestria?
I hope so. I mean, where there's one, there must be more. But I really hope we get to find out more about them because I love the zebras. So.
Do you have any own favorite characters in serial?
I love Starlight Glimmer. She's my favorite, and my favorite of the main 6 is Rarity, and my favorite villain is probably Chrysalis. I really like her.
When there was a new monster about to show, which isn't happening lately, by the way, were there so many concepts that people end up with something ridiculous, like, look, I made a spider dragon which can kill you with a fart that somebody kept, and no, this is not gonna work, get out with this.
I mean, a lot of that is done in the writing stage, so they kind of come up with the creatures. We just come up with the design to make those creatures look cool. There is a character coming up that we had to go back and forth on because we weren't sure if it was going to work or how it was going to work. But in the end, we kind of came up with a happy medium to make sure that the writers got what they wanted, but the design team also got what they wanted. But I can't remember an instance in which we got a script and there was a villain or a monster, and then halfway through somebody says, no, we're not using that at all. But that's never happened. Usually by the time it comes to us as a design team, it's pretty much like we know that we're going to be working with that.
About the season 5 finally, when it was the really final, can I say final world, final time, when there was a desert or something, where team from Hasbro, where people were ever heard about some Fallout franchise? Because when I was watching episode and lines where Twilight and Starlight were talking to each other, there was a few lines that I really heard in a game and was literally the same lines.
Oh, the game Fallout? No, I mean I worked with Laura to come up with those backgrounds, and I've never played Fallout, so it wasn't part of our design decision. As far as the script, I'm not a writer. I can't say. I don't know if they did that, but design-wise, no, it wasn't part of it.
And that world when the Equestria was fighting with a Crystal Empire, the moment when the two armies were about to clash, where entire room was sitting like. But when the fight was finally at the best moment, then ponies were like. Then our friend, he was first with that concept. By the way, it's not a promotion, but we were laughing that he made it better than Hasbro. And about the wars, has Equestria ever had a real war?
I don't know if they've had a real war, but if they have, I hope we get to do an episode about it.
Oh, and about wars and power of Celestia, or even any princess. By the way, I saw it in a comic made by a fan. You remember episode when Yaks destroy?
Sorry?
The episode, I don't remember its title, but they were yaks. They were from the north.
Oh, yeah, the yaks.
Yeah, there was a comic, but after that, their king said that he's declaring war to Equestria. There was the place when their village was a big hall. Celestia standing with sunglasses, with Twilight by her side, and asking, "Do you have any places where you wanna bring friendship?"
Oh, so you're referring to a comic that came out after? Okay, so one thing we have to clarify is that the animation studio is not affiliated with the comics. They have their own timeline. The stuff that happens in the comics is not canon in the show, and we don't read the comics. Well, Jim might, but I don't read the comics. So I don't know.
What about Celestia's power? Would she finally do something on her own instead of sending Twilight?
I hope it never comes to Celestia having to use her powers, because I mean that I think that would be the end of the world.
And why in the season 4 finally, season 4? Season 5, finally, when Twilight was fighting with T-Rex, whatever. Many people were complaining that it was like Dragon Ball. It was on purpose, or it just was this way?
I've never.
If you ever watched a Dragon Ball.
I used to watch Dragon Ball when I was a kid.
We all did.
Yeah, exactly. But I wasn't involved in the decision to have anything referencing Dragon Ball, so I personally don't think so, but I wasn't really involved, so I don't know.
It pains me to ask another question, somehow unrelated to the show, though I wouldn't myself if I hadn't asked that. Mind me asking whether you have affiliated yourself or acquainted yourself with the previous generations by any chance?
Oh, the My Little Pony previous generation?
Yes, indeed.
So I used to have the ponies in the 80s. I actually had the very first Moon Dancer toy, and I brought it to work with me, so I do know that. Of course, I've seen the little animations, the weird animations from the 80s, and then the like very flowery, cupcakey generation 3 or 2 or whatever. So I do know a little bit, yeah, about it.
Okay, then following up that question, have you ever created something in the fourth generation that the previous ones have inspired you to?
Yeah, Moon Dancer was referenced from those earlier ones, and there is another. Fluttershy's costume in the Snowfall episode, the Heartwarming Eve. It's referencing her, I think, Gen 2 or Gen 1 design, those little flowers on her thing. I put that in as a reference to the earlier version of Fluttershy. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
In the episode with Royal Baby, in the background, some people see a changeling who was carrying something. In the end, yes. Is that true, or is that just imagination?
What do they see?
A changeling who was carrying something.
Well, I didn't catch that.
A changeling.
Oh, a changeling.
Yes, yes.
Oh, yeah, I think there's a changeling in there. There might be.
And that's important, or that's just a piece of background?
I guess you'll just have to find out.
Oh my gosh. Okay, thanks.
Okay, I think we make a little break.
Sure. Yeah, what time do I have the panel? At 11.
That's that way you can move it like 15 minutes, so you have like 25 minutes break.
I can go right into it if you want to do like 10 more minutes of questions, and then we can head right to the panel.
Okay.
Yeah. I was late, so it's fine. So I could take a few more questions, and then I'll be moving to a different panel. So if you have anything else.
Boże.
I don't know if that question was asked before, but how does work in a studio in daily life looks like for you? Is there serious mood all the time, or just you wanna do some jokes for each other or something like that?
I mean, it's pretty casual. We do have a job to do, and we have to take it seriously, but we do have fun with it. Like I said, Charmaine, who was prop artist in season 5 and character artist in season 6, she and I would just draw really stupid ponies and pass them back and forth between each other. We would joke around, and then there would be times where we have our headphones on and we're just working, you know. Definitely near the end of the season, it's a little more serious because there's a lot more work coming in, but you know, we all like each other. We're friends, so we have fun.
Okay, anybody? Ladies first.
What is your favorite ship?
Oh, a ship? I mean, I like Lyra and Bonbon. I think they're really cute. Yeah. Oh, okay. There's one that I saw online. I'm sorry to admit this, but the art was really cute. I like Sombra and Fluttershy. I think it's cute.
Oh.
Sorry.
It's fine.
What about Timberwolves? Why they are in 3D?
Oh, I think it's just because they were so difficult to build in Flash that we had to do some 3D. There's another thing I think coming up that was just so complicated that we needed to build it in 3D because otherwise the animators would go crazy with all those little bits rotating around. Oh my God, they would lose it. So.
What about relationship between Octavia and Vinyl? Because no one asked this, and I just want to know.
Oh, it's not one that I've seen before, but if they both consent, then sure.
They live with each other in one home.
I don't know, they're both musicians, they have a common interest, so why not?
Okay. Okay, so if there will be any episode of a one day of a princess, for example, Celestia or Luna, just for them, like Luna wakes up doing this.
I hope so, that would be really fun. I would love to work on that.
But there are no future plans for it, yes?
Well, as always, even though you guys keep trying, I can't tell you anything. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a suggestion for our future.
I want to ask about another probably spoiler about Starlight Glimmer and Sunburst. Is this going to something more?
I don't know if they will turn into something more. I think right now they're just reconnecting as friends, and it's a lot of work already. So.
Okay, we already through Celestia's power, and sorry to keep dragging this, but when Luna became Nightmare Moon, and it was shown in the show that Celestia was losing to Nightmare Moon, she was forced to use the elements of harmony. And we already know that there's magic inside every pony, and Main Six was changing forms through the situations. Is it even possible for Twilight, for example, to have such power level she can just power up like a Super Saiyan or something?
I mean, like with any skill, you get better and better, and Twilight's probably going to get stronger and stronger, and we'll see what happens. She's an alicorn after all, so maybe.
She's a princess. Well, we have 5 princesses now, yeah? 5? Celestia, Luna, Twilight, Cadence, and the little baby who can destroy everything by a sneeze.
Are the alicorns ageless?
They don't get older.
Oh, are they immortal?
Immortal, yes.
I don't know. I don't know if they're all immortal. Because, I mean, clearly Cadence was a teenager, and then she grew up, and Flurry Heart's going to grow up. I don't know if there's like a point in time where they stop growing, or if it's a spell, or what the deal is there. Hopefully we'll find out. I don't know.
I forget. I simply forget.
Jak sobie przypomnisz, to damy ci mikrofon. Okay, anybody?
Do you prefer Princess Luna or Princess Celestia?
I like Nightmare Moon.
Okay, that's right. I am the knight.
Yeah.
So, is it any chance to know in future episodes the story of Stars Will Be Birded? All right.
Okej. Jakieś pomysły?
What about Celestia and Luna parents?
I don't know anything about that. There's nothing out there.
There will be a future episode about...
Oh, you guys,
Yeah,
if there are, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you about anything that's going to happen in the future episodes. I can't do it. I'm sorry.
Contract.
When the season finally, when Twilight was going through the worlds, there was a world when Nightmare Moon got her objective completed. There was an eternal night, but her guards were in Rainbow Dash example. There was the bat ears, and when she took off the helmet, she was normal. The same for the guards. There was bat ponies real, or is just something that, just a joke, just something for fans?
If bat ponies are real, we haven't yet gone into their world, and if they are real, I hope we do get to discover more about them because they're very cool.
Oh. And if we're not sure if Celestia or Luna are immortal or something, that we do know that they live long enough. But is there any place for a love life for them? Is it even allowed for them, or is just something that it doesn't even really matter because I have to say goodbye for just another pony?
Well, I mean, who could handle a relationship with either of those two, really? I don't know. I think they have such private lives that maybe they do have a love life, or maybe they don't, and we just won't know because they're so private about it. But, I mean, they're princesses of the goddamn world. If they want to have a relationship, they should be allowed to.
And what do you think about Discord and Celestia shipping?
Sorry, Discord.
And Celestia.
Oh, I don't ship it.
Oh.
No.
We do.
Good.
No, we don't.
Everybody's allowed to ship who they want.
Okay, so I think we can jump to the other panel with what was the name of it? Portfolio, yeah, portfolio panel. So stay here. Where you think you're going, sit.